Happy Saturday, Land Golf Academy members and guests. So I put this video up. One of my subscribers sent me this link and said, hey, there's this guy, Roger King, put this video out there. What do you think about it? Never heard of the guy, so I'm going to put it on live with you. We're going to give you some feedback. Now, this video looks like it's 13 minutes long, so I'm going to probably edit this in the after session just to cut some fluff out. And if I find anything that I agree with, disagree with, I'll let you know. I don't know anything about Roger King. I'm sure he's a good instructor. Go check out his YouTube channel. I couldn't find him on PGA.org, so I know he's not in the PGA, so it could just be a established professional that teaches in his neighborhood. But other than that, let's get going. We're going to keep this intro really quick, and we'll give you the feedback.
Hey guys, this is going to be a fun video, and this is going to be all about speed. You want it, I got it. I'm going to show you where it comes from and all of that, because this lesson can pertain to all of you. You know how sometimes I say this lesson isn't for you, this lesson, blah, blah, blah. This lesson is for every single person.
All right, so right there, this is for everybody. You know my thoughts on this. There's no such thing as a universal tip for everybody. And just like any sort of blanket tip, if I give the same tip to 100 people, it could apply to 10 of them. It could not apply to 10 of them, and the other 80 are kind of hit and miss. So it's just take it for what it is.
Get really into this little series I'm going to be doing now is all about speed, okay? And where it comes from, 85% comes from your hands, wrists, and forearms.
So right off the bat, we're in a disagreement here. Actually, research has shown that the hands, wrists, and forearms only contribute about 15 to 25% of total clubhead speed. The lower body is about 40 to 50%. The torso, which is your core and your shoulders, is about 30 to 40%. The arms and the hands, which is the hands, wrists, and forearms, is 15 to 25%. What I think you might be confusing is the role of the hands and arms. Not only there for sequencing of helping close the club face if you can't rotate enough or hold on to your rotation of your body, but they're really there to deliver all the power that your body has created. That's the role of hands and arms, is to store the power and deliver it. So it might just be his interpretation of what the hands and arms do, but statistically, they don't provide as much as he is claiming here.
The body supports, and talk about how the feet and ankle G's move and stuff like that for some people. But again, this is going to pertain to every single person, because the number one reason why people do not use their hands correctly, number one, and two, they probably just don't have an understanding, and I guess that's either my fault or other teachers' faults, but where the actual hand and where the actual arm is supposed to be to create a maximum speed, okay? So the hand, wrist, and forearm bends backwards like so. And I want to address the answer of a question too a guy had. So this is not the faldo drill where the golf club stays here and then hinges like this, okay? That's not a swing, okay? And the butt of the club went that way, all right? So when I put my finger here and I hinge my hands back, you'll see that the butt of the club stayed right there where that double pendulum would be. My right hand's over my thigh or so as I wind up, and my elbow's in the right position, and my hand's over here. This is the number one position people do not get into, okay? If I could put every single person right here, I wouldn't, well, one, you wouldn't need me. And two, you'd all be good golfers, all right? And especially with understanding.
This might be a misconception, but you got to think about why people cannot get into that position. So if you look at the amount of rotation that you have in your rotator cuff, there's a thing called the external rotation, which is basically this action, kind of like a pitcher throwing a ball. And then there's internal rotation, which is this action. Now, the average person out there has about 90 degrees of external rotation and anywhere from 70 to 90 degrees of internal rotation. However, the people that he's talking about on tour that can get to these positions have upwards of 120 degrees of external rotation, and that external rotation allows them to hinge a little bit differently, allows them to get that club shallower, allows them to preserve energy longer and deliver an impact with the hands and arms. So there's a reason why most people can't get into that position, and it also has to do with rotation. People just can't rotate as much as the people we see on TV, so there is no hidden move to help you get this unless you change your body's flexibility, unless you start taking care of your body to allow you to get to these positions, which is really only reserved for people on television. So this is a trap that I don't want you to fall down to by thinking there's this magical device or magical idea to help you get in these positions. No idea or device can force your body into positions where you just physically cannot get to. So let's keep going.
So watch what happens when I put my left hand to it. Look how much my shoulders now moved, how much my arms has extension, right? You can literally put the club on your shoulder, extend it, and you see I'm in the same place. So this part right here of extension is then 100% the arm going to the target as fast as you can. The other thing that you guys do is, because you swing inefficiently, you can't swing fast.
Yeah, I don't know. If you take a look at the average length, the lifespan of a golf swing, it is born and it dies within about a second to a second and a half. Tempo is a lot to do with this. You take a look at Nick Price, who was a very fast tempo person. He had a very fast backswing, very fast downswing. Ernie Els had a very smoother tempo. So you take a look at his backswing, it doesn't look as aggressive or fast as Nick Price, but Ernie Els hit it much further because he's obviously about a foot taller and weighed a lot more. Now, if this is a video strictly learning how to hit the ball as hard as you can, I can maybe understand what he's saying about keeping your tempo faster to help negotiate that turn, to help your body get a lot of turn rotation. I have taught some students that have pretty slow swings, and they are pretty efficient because they control that club head. Anytime you can control the club head speed, you're going to hit it straighter more often. It's the wild swings that you lose control of. So I don't know what this is about, if this is about hitting the ball as hard as you can or just increasing your overall distance, but there's many ways to do that. Number one is just to get a body that can handle the amount of rotation, tilting, and obviously that rotation with your shoulders. So I had to change camera angles because that sun is setting and it's going to make me look like an angel or a demon, whichever one you want. So forgive that camera change. No, it's not Mrs. Havenkamp or Mrs. Jabroni coming to get me. It's the sun god himself.
If you've been told to turn your body, then you will twist your leg, your arm will come around behind you, you'll be off plane, you've got to figure out a way to get it back on top. So let's do that. Let's tuck our elbow in, okay, because that's what we've been told to do. Let's tuck our elbow in and turn. Okay, and that's about, I'm going to try to go, it's 113 with the speed thing, so you have to take about 10% away. Try it again, I'm going to go real hard here. Turn my body in. Shit, 105.
Okay, so there's a couple things. Again, you know, if you're comparing the best in the world, which is what he's trying to do here and saying, hey, the best in the world do this, best in the world do that. If you just take a look at Matt Kuchar's swing, watch his right elbow, watch how tight it gets to his body. So to say that things are so universally bound that we do this and you guys don't do that is not really fair to either party. It's not fair to the professionals out there because they're all over the place. And it's not really fair to the amateurs because I'm sure there are some amateurs out there that can get in some pretty powerful positions with their right arm tucked. It just works for them and their bodies. And without knowing that, it's very hard, at least for me, to say, hey, try this if you do this, because I might be doing you disservice by taking away from something that you might be fundamentally sound and successful at, just because it might not look like a correct position to develop clubhead speed. And clubhead speed is all relative. 100 miles an hour to me might seem fast if I'm usually used to 90, but it might seem slow to somebody that is typically at 110 or 115. So if you're looking to take somebody from 95 to 100, I think there's simpler ways to do this based on their motion and their limitations.
I'm a little bit worse. All right, so you can see how that club is off plane. Now, the reason why this pertains to every single person is because even when I get people to swing like they walk and move their ankle joints and all that, I'm getting them in this position with their arm up here. If it's not up here, then it doesn't work. And I also have super fast hands and arms. See, so if I was just to do the swing like you walk and not have fast hands and arms, it'd look like this. See, my feet can only drive 10% of the power.
So back to that percentage, the lower body is basically responsible for generating 40 to 50% of the power, and it all stems from the feet. So the feet use a lot of ground force. There's a lot of vertical forces. There's a lot of rotational forces that are attributed with the feet. Proper weight distribution. So if I had a choice, I would rather work from the ground up and then inside out. So if I'm looking at a player that might take this club back very fast and try and get in the upper body positions with his arms, but his lower body is inefficient, it's going to affect your sequencing, it's going to affect your rhythm, your power transfer, the rotation, the ground forces that we learned about last week, the 19 ground forces that we do have in a golf swing. A majority of those are controlled and started with the footwork. So will you be sacrificing good footwork to get into these top positions when you might be sacrificing your sequencing? And the main thing to start those ground forces, that's a question you got to ask yourself. Just remember, footwork creates vertical force, horizontal force, and your torque. It's responsible for those three major things.
Right, now I'm gonna try to do what the tour pros do. Some of them do. They come up here and they drive down and then they turn. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna try to do now. All right, so 116. So you can see, and I labored. right? Because it's not efficient.
Okay, that efficient word is being thrown out again. Just remember, this is not about club head speed. To gain distance, it's about smash factor. Your ball speed is the number one thing. If you increase your club head speed, there's a high chance that you're going to not hit it in the sweet spot. That's going to affect your smash factor, and then your ball speed is going to be significantly reduced. So in other words, if I have a 100-mile-an-hour club head speed, but I consistently strike that in the sweet spot, my kinematic sequence is there, my weight distribution is there, getting in decent positions, my smash factor is 1.5 of the driver, my ball speed is going to be 150 miles an hour. Now let's say I swing like a beast, I get that club head speed to 110 miles an hour, my sequencing is a little bit off, my club contact is going to be toe, heel, it could be center, but most of the time, because everything's off, you start losing your posture, your smash factor will drop down. Let's say it drops down to 1.4, which is still pretty decent. Your ball speed will be 154 miles an hour. So is it worth that extra 4 miles an hour by trying to increase 10 miles an hour with your club head speed? And to go from 1 to 110, man, that is a ridiculous amount to do. And if you don't believe me, ask the best in the world. They try and go from 115 to 116, 117. The effort level is extreme at that point. Your body will cap out at some point. So just learn with your limitations and focus on consistent distance. It's about consistently hitting golf balls a certain length. It's not just wildly swinging at it to get your club speed up, because that really doesn't do much if you can't hit the ball in the sweet spot.
Because the very thing that you do at the top of your golf swing, I am throwing my arm. Oh my God, I know. What did I just say? You deleted me, right? I'm throwing my arm. My arm is moving as fast as I can possibly go to the target. Naturally, like this. My arm is going. As my arm is going, my hand is making that motion. That's how you would throw a ball, okay? So when I get up here to the top, I'm not unwinding my hand. From right here, I'm just throwing my arm as fast as I want to the target. Now that's 140.
Okay, so I understand what he's trying to say, and it makes sense that your hand has to outrace your body turn, but we have to understand why this is the case, because if it can't keep up your rotation and your tilting, it's going to lag behind, and then you're going to have some issues that impact. Your hands will have to throw eventually to make up for that consistency. So to help you understand this more, let's just say that's my body rotation at the top. This is my hands. If I start turning my body, the faster I turn my body, what does my hand have to do? My hands and arms have to keep up with that turn. The slower I move, my hand speed doesn't have to increase that much to keep up with the rotation. So if you're thinking about get your hands to throw and you don't rotate, your hands are going to outrace your body. You're going to have contact issues. But then it comes down to your rotation speed. Let's say I rotate my body very fast. Look how fast my hands have to keep up. So one thing I think he's failing to mention is the reason why your hand speed has to be the way it is, and the reason why some golf professionals on tour that are body driven have to keep their hands in a much shorter position to allow the spacing for the hands to rotate and keep up with that turn, where others, and we've seen Duvall, where others get the hands to separate from their chest and get a little long, they have to turn first, and then their hands have to, at the very end, outrace the body to catch up. So there's many ways to do this, and again, there's no blanket thing to cure everybody.
Let's do the right foot only drill that I did a couple videos ago or so, okay? And I got like a 120-pound sandbag so my mat doesn't move, but so you can see I'm not really balancing, tapping, okay? But my hand, wrist, and forearms are swinging back. My arms are going through, and that's 129. So that's why 85% or more of your power comes from your hands, wrists, and forearms.
Again, I think he might be mistaken. It's not necessarily they come from it. They are delivering the body's power through that angle. That's the conservation of angular momentum. The role of the hands and arms is just to conserve that power as long as you can. And as long as it can keep up in the correct position, it can conserve it. But the moment the hands get out of position, you start losing it because your hands have to throw that club head to get back out in front. So something in your body is going off. So he might be trying to say the same thing, but the way it's coming across might be misleading.
Now, what I see a lot of people do, because one, not to be mad, not to be mean, right? Work on your flexibility a little bit, get in the gym for strength training. You might only be able to go to here, okay? Now, that is going to be more efficient than someone that does this or goes out to here, but then at the top of their swing, and I would probably say that 90% of my students have their hand too close to their head here.
All right, so good points there. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Keeping the hands out in front of the chest and working with your rotation limitations, and he addressed that too, so that's really good. And I like the way that he mentioned, maybe not in the direct way, but to say if you cannot get your body to turn enough, your hands and arms do typically make up for it. Now, to say that that is a direct result of being told to do something else, we don't know, and we can't really assume that. What I believe most people do is because they lack the rotation, they have to make up with that rotation to see if they can get sort of any effort at the golf ball. But he is 100% correct that if you can have a nice full turn, at least to your limitations, and make sure your hands are out in front and think about a little bit wider, you're going to widen that swing arc. But as long as you can keep that same speed going back down, in relative terms, your hands have to stay with your body rotation, you'll hit the ball so much more efficiently and much further. So agreement there.
And so, or I get the one that goes here and then right here collapses. So you can see how my shoulder stops moving, see? Or I've got the one that goes wide, 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 wide because they've been told to do that. Then they cock their hands up here significantly later, and you can see how my elbow in position, out of position. And so now I've got a down cock and I'm going to release, see? So the wider that you go, you now have to down cock and kind of create something and then release. And then that looks like this. Wide, 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 wide. And you can see how.
So makes total sense as well. So the same thing about the rotation limitations, and you know, you have to really look at this angle, and the rotator cuff is not really mentioned too much, but that extra 30 degrees that the tour pros can get into puts them in different positions. They can get in different positions than what we are trying to attain to with our regular body. So the question for me would be to ask him, okay, why do you think that these students who have these wide swings to try and get that width, why do you think they lack some sort of issues up here? Is it that rotator cuff? Is it because they are getting disconnected somewhere else? But I think in a runaround way, we kind of have a similar idea about the golf swing. I'm just a little taken back on the explanation, but so far I'm hit and miss. I agree with some of the things he says. I respectively don't agree with some of the things he says. The one issue I have with some instructors is they say, I feel, you should feel, because you can't tell somebody your feelings because feel isn't real. And even if you tell them your feelings, it's going to get lost in their translation. They're going to be doing something completely different. So the really only way to cure your golf swing is to go to an instructor in person. Now, if you live close to him, you want to go take a lesson to him, go to him in person, because if a good instructor will not teach you their feels, will not teach you their positions, they're going to find a way to look at your swing, look at your mobility limitations, and put you in a position where it can work for you, and then ask you, how does this feel to you? And you need to remember this. Come up with your own feeling, because we know that feel isn't real, and I can't sit there and tell you how it should feel. You need to tell me how it feels to you, and we write that note, so when you start missing it, you go back to that feeling drill, and if that doesn't work, you come back and see me and we figure something else out. But not much left in this video, but I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for the recommendation to watch this. Go check out his channel, Roger King. He seems like a nice guy, very passionate. I'll leave the link in the description below, but don't forget, tomorrow we go live at right here, YouTube, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Send me your videos if you do have it, face on and down the line. We've got, I think, one space open, and then we fill up. Catch y'all next time. Fairways and greens.